Hey everybody, it's Simone. We're here again today. We're in our first episode of Living the Body series. So if this is the first time you've joined us, you can find our free video gifts. Of our first gift was my profile and general information about the body keys. And the second video gift that we put out there was about focused on the elements of the body keys in this Living the Body series. So we're really grateful to Ashley, Nicole, and Bella, Krystal, of co-creators of 64 Doors and the membership group Unlock Your Design. They are constantly working to provide amazing content for everyone interested in living their highest vibration and learning more about how to bridge between human design and the gene keys. And this Living the Body series is coming to us through these great channels. So we thank you, Bella and Ashley, for joining us. And today we're focusing in again on the body keys, which is the brainchild of Timothy Brainerd, who's going to be leading us today. So Timothy, I'm going to just hand it off to you, and so you can talk about today's episode.
Okay, thank you. I love that you said brainchild. Every time I hear that word, I think Brainerd. That's my name, so it's in there. And that is totally off topic, but I one time started a business with my younger brother that we called Brain Tree. So there's a lot of brain happening here.
Totally.
So the body keys and this episode, let's discuss in brief what we're aiming for here in meeting together. To begin with, I also want to thank Ashley for offering herself up as a bit of a guinea pig. We get to explore Ashley's body keys profile today. The profile is something that I refer to as a personal formula within the context of the body keys. And so what we'll do here is a live reading. I like to think of it as a live reading. Mm-hmm. Now, this is technically in place of what would normally be an audio reading, a brief audio reading. So this is an extended or expanded look into what is happening here in the body keys, and in particular, what is happening here in your body keys, Ashley. So thank you for being willing to make this public. And I hope that as we move along, we're all able to not only come to a better understanding of the body keys, but ultimately come to a better understanding of ourselves and what it means to be truly human. Okay. Before I pause and kind of check in with all of you, I wanted to just establish a framework of what the body keys even is. For those of you who are tuning in, maybe you've seen these words bouncing around, but they don't mean anything. And maybe a part of why you're here is to find out what in the world we're even talking about. So in brief, I would just like to say that the body keys is all about meeting those moments of stuckness and tension, which come up for us all the time in our lives. It's about how to meet those moments gracefully. And it's a result of my own experience, and it's a surprising discovery for me to realize that each of our individual body systems has written into the very physical nature of who we are specific mechanisms for meeting those sort of moments in a way that reconnects us to the ground of our own inherent state of relaxation. So the body keys are tools that allow us to proactively remember ourselves, even in those moments when we've been fully alienated from our experience through stress and tension. So I'll pause there and just check in with the three of you, Bella, Ashley, and Simone. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we dig in?
I'm kind of nervous now.
Well, I would like to say, because in episode, in our free video gift one, we did my profile. And so if you were going to work with Tim, and your initial contact with the body keys, or your initial body key would be a report that you would receive. And so I did that with Timothy, and I made my little decoder ring of my own body keys. And it helped me to understand what I was using to move that stuckness. So that would, if a person were coming to timothybrainerd.com, would the body keys report would be step one, correct?
Yeah, you know what? Thank you for mentioning that. That's important to note. Yes. So anytime that someone purchases a Body Keys personal formula package, what they're receiving is a collection of tools that they can use for application. First, you would receive an introductory video describing, I think it's 20 or 25 minutes long, describing how to make use of your personal formula profile. So you'd receive this video. You would receive a transcript of that video for those of you who prefer reading over watching me speak. And you'd also receive your actual profile, which is delivered in PDF format and is usually several pages long.
Great.
And yeah, okay, perfect. So we have here an example of Ashley's profile. In addition to the profile, I'm including an advanced copy of your human design body graph and a copy of your Gene Keys profile for reference. And also because the Body Keys is founded in these systems, and it's important to make sure that they're included as we move along. So yeah, thank you, Simone, that's helpful.
Great. So then you receive your report and you review it, and then if a person wanted to, they would go to this next stage, which you're doing with Ashley today, correct?
Yeah. So actually, I forgot to mention that in addition to everything I already said, you would also receive a personalized audio reading. Now, it's goofy because initially I thought that audio reading would be 15 or 20 minutes in length, and yet every time I leave one, it gets longer. I mean, they're like kind of ridiculously long because there's so much here. It's dense material. It's a concise package, but there's a lot to unpack in the package. And so we're going to spend about an hour doing this live today. But for anyone purchasing the Body Keys package on my website, you would receive a personalized audio reading in place of this kind of conversation, in place of a one-on-one session.
Fabulous.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good place to start. Also, keep in mind that every one of these profiles is in fact personal to you. So none of this is automated. Anytime that I receive an order, I sit with your human design and your Gene Keys profile, and then I go about crafting your Body Keys profile based on everything that I'm seeing there. So it is a rather intensive process building this right now, but that's by design. I want it to be personal. It's important that it is.
Fantastic.
Okay. So let's break into yours, Ashley. Do you have any questions or concerns before we do?
Nope. I'm super open and ready to absorb right now.
Okay. Okay, wonderful. Well, because of the format of this, it's a conversation. So as I move along, where I would typically just go for a walk down the street and just blaze through enormous monologue, I invite you to break in with any questions along the way if you need clarity. Okay. But otherwise, I will treat this very similar to how I would treat a typical audio reading. And so to begin with, I always establish a framework of understanding. And we've begun this process by describing what the Body Keys is and what dimension of our experience it's intended to serve. The next thing I always like to make a point of stating is simply that as long as this conversation may be, there's no way for me to deliver everything that there is to know about the Body Keys, or even everything that there is to know about your specific Body Keys in a single conversation like this one. And a part of that is because there's a lot of information here. The other part of that is because no one will ever find out everything there is to know about your Body Keys except for you. And even the expert himself could not even begin to guess all of the beautiful ways in which these Body Keys, like flowers, will begin to blossom in your own experience. Okay? So I often like to think about the Body Keys as a door opening into a whole new realm of discovery, a whole new realm of experience and exploration for you. And though the Body Keys profile itself might be the door, the actual landscape that door opens up into is on you. That's your responsibility to go for the ride. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, cool. We seem to be losing participants here. What's going on?
I think Bella excused herself, and then we lost Simone. Simone is gone. But it's me and you anyway. They'll come on. When they come on, there's Simone. I'll get her back on.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Where did you go?
I don't know. I was looking at the live comments and then I just disappeared.
Well, if you lose Tim, you've got a real problem.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So the point of this conversation obviously won't be to tell you everything there is to know about the Body Keys. another reason this is the case is because the body keys are still developing. There's something that has begun to come to life through my own experience, and this system itself is continuing to grow day by day. So the point of this conversation really is going to be to review your profile together side by side in a way that allows it to kind of speak to me intuitively. And so as we move through this profile, I'm going to be noting those aspects of your profile which kind of highlight themselves to me as worthy of extra attention. Okay. The final thing that I'll share about this is that the profile itself is very concise. It doesn't use a lot of words. It's only a few pages long. It's not a book, right? In fact, if what a person is looking for is like an easy breezy reading experience where they can kind of like get to the end of that reading experience, maybe it's an essay or an article, and they can kind of take that breath of understanding, be like, I get it. This really isn't that. This isn't the sort of thing that you can blaze through in a single pass and understand, because what it's opening you to is not an intellectual grasp, but an experiential movement. It's introducing you or inviting you to a new way of engaging your life. And so what I always encourage at the start is that you create a little bit of extra space for yourself around your experience of the body keys profile. Don't just read it once, revisit it. It's intended as a resource. It's supposed to be a reference piece. And so as a piece of reference material, it's meant to be revisited over and over again. And really what I've found through my experience and through observation of those who have participated in this is that when you do this, it reveals more every time. And so as anyone meeting their profile for the first time does so, I always encourage that you feel your way through the profile. Really pay attention to which words jump out and bite you. It's very precise in this way. Every single word in the profile means something. And so as you're reading through it, I always encourage you to kind of notice for those words that highlight themselves for you. The words, the phrases, the ideas, they mean something. And they'll change each time you revisit your profile. Okay, that's a lot, but are you with me so far?
Yes.
It's all about how to treat this information responsibly. I think a lot of times it can be easy to intellectually engage with material like this and even to get excited about it on that level. But really what I have built this for is to invite interaction, invite experimentation. I want it to be lived out. And for those people who have done so, like Simone, for instance, I mean, Simone is the first person that I've seen who built her own decoder. What do you call it, a decoder ring? It's just incredible. Yeah, this is what I mean. You can get into it. You know, you can really try it on for size and see what relevance it holds for you and experience through application. That's what it's built for. Okay, so as we move into the profile, which we're ready to do now, what I'd love to do, if possible, Ashley, is I'd love to pull up a copy of the profile so we can scroll through it. Okay. So here we are at the first of several sections. This profile is built in sections. And if you scroll down, you'll notice that this first section says stuckness patterns. The next section will say body keys. Perfect. And the section that follows this says gifts. And scroll down just a little past that as well. There's the fourth section, which we'll look at today. And this is the section of your elemental expression. There it is. Perfect. So the reason I make a point of noting the different sections is because the sequence that those sections exist in is actually by design as well. So this sequence is on purpose. First, we meet the stuckness patterns. And you can kind of rewind to the stuckness patterns if you would like. These are those probably all too familiar patterns of tension in your experience that tends to cause the body to become constricted and tight. They cause you to feel knotted up. They cause the breath to become shallow and high up in the chest. These are kind of where our journey begins. In order to apply the body keys, the very first step is turning the conscious awareness of our remarkably capable mind toward the body so that we can begin to listen into the body's signals with a greater and greater degree of sensitivity. So stuckness patterns are where this begins because tension in the physical body is the first step of applying the body key. And we always meet tension, in and out of tension all day, every day. We're very familiar with it. And for many of us, we're in a state of chronic tension. So this is something that's going to, again, be very close to home, very familiar. Now, what's interesting about the body keys, and this is exciting for me, I say about the body keys, but really this is just something interesting about being human, is that regardless of what form of stress or tension you're experiencing, whether it's initiated in the mind or in your emotional state or in your relational position, no matter where it originates, all tension will demonstrate in the body. It's all going to exhibit in some way in your physical body. So it almost doesn't matter whether you're dealing with emotional paralysis or mental overwhelm or relational discord. At the end of the day, all of these things will clearly demonstrate themselves as occurring in the moment through physical tension. And that tension can be a clenching of the abdominal muscles. It can be a kind of a sick feeling deep in your gut. It can be a tightening of your lower back muscles or your shoulders. It can be stiffness in the neck, clenching of the jaws, all of these different ways in which we as human beings experience physical tension. What I'm trying to demonstrate here is that that tension means something. That tension is your body's system of communication. It's your body telling you that something is locked that should be moving. Does this make sense to all of you?
Mm-hmm.
You're nodding. I check in like that, not because I don't think it makes sense to you. I know the three of you fairly well at this point, so I know you get it, but I just want to make sure you have an opportunity to jump in anytime you need to. And I want to make sure we're on the same page, because I get excited about this, and I like a freight train sometimes. I can just get going. Okay, so you begin with tension. Tension is that first signal that something is awry. Once you've recognized tension, you're already a mile ahead of where you were potentially before this call, because it's that awareness, that sensitivity to your own physical state that opens you to the possibility of engaging with that state in a new way, right? Awareness is a gift in that regard. And so once you've recognized tension, you have the opportunity to look toward the body keys. And the body keys are, and Ashley, in your case, you have several. You have a lot going on here. The body keys are your body's inherent mechanism for meeting those moments of tension in a way that returns it to its natural state of relaxation. So your body, in every case that you come upon that wall of feeling stuck, that wall of discomfort and stress and tension, in every case, your body knows precisely what it needs in order to regain a sense of composure. The question is, do you allow it to have what it needs in that moment? Do you focus your attention in toward the body and allow it to come back to that state? Or do you continue to wrangle with the tension itself, thereby locking yourself into a tighter and tighter knot, right? Most of us argue with that tension. We push harder. It's like, it's the craziest thing, but when we meet that force, we think that we have to fight it. And so in doing that, we actually lock ourselves up even more until we're completely stuck. So the body keys offer a new avenue when that moment arises. And the body keys, if we were to scroll down to them, you'll notice that you have, I believe, 5. You might have 6, actually. 6. You have 6. Okay.
Do people have this many? Like, what's like? I feel like I have a lot.
Good question. So when you're looking at the stuckness patterns, the body keys, and the gifts, there are always 7 total options. Many people have only 1 or 2. Bella, I think you have 3. Ashley, you and I, we're unique creatures.
We're complex beings.
Yeah, that's right. There's a lot happening. And all of this comes out of your human design, by the way. So this isn't arbitrary information. It is, again, very, very individual. And each of us, there's no one better or worse. If you have 6 body keys, that doesn't mean that you're better or worse off than someone who has 1 or 2. It's the context of your story, right? And the variables that you have at play in your own unique journey. But in this case, we do have something really fascinating happening in that you have 6 out of 7 options in each of these different sections. So there's a lot happening here. And as we move along, you'll find that it's not quite as complicated as it seems. We've talked about this before, the difference between complexity and complication. To say that you're complex doesn't necessarily mean that your application needs to be complicated. In fact, you'll find, I believe, that it's extremely simple and even obvious. But first, we need to understand what's happening. Okay? So you have the pattern. You meet the pattern through the body keys. And in applying your body keys and in proactively choosing to apply the body keys, you allow your body the space it needs to begin returning to its natural state of ease. once you've reconnected to the ground of your being in this way, once the breath becomes deeper into the diaphragm and the muscles loosen and your body remembers that everything is okay, right? You reconnect to the possibility of your giftedness. And this is something that it's not something that needs to be developed necessarily. It's amazing to consider that these gifts, and if you scroll down to them, it's fun even just to look at the words themselves. It's fun to consider that your gifts are inherent. They're built into who you are. They're not something you have to work on developing so much. These are natural expressions of your nature, right? But those expressions need to have the right setting, the right inner environment, so to speak, in order for them to come to life through you. It's almost like you have to become a clear channel for these beautiful expressions of your nature. And so the more relaxed you are, the more these particular flowers are allowed to bloom in your experience, the more these lights are allowed to shine through you. And look at these lights: vibrancy and clarity, sovereignty, gentleness, originality, and harmony. This is a very, very beautiful being that we're looking at here. And yeah, it's complex, but it's like deliciously complex. These are beautiful gifts, right? Okay, so if we come back up to the stuckness patterns, I think we need to spend some time discussing what these mean. We've talked about the sequence. First, you meet the tension, then you apply the body key, and as a result of that application in time, what that allows for is the space for your gifts to emerge. But now let's look more closely at the specific patterns themselves, keeping in mind, of course, that at the end of the day, when you're feeling tense, you don't necessarily need to understand what that tension is called or where it's originating. What you need to do is recognize the way it's communicating itself to you through the body. So it's fun to recognize which patterns you're going to be healing through application of the body keys. I think it's really useful to see this. But again, to keep in mind that in practical application, all that really matters is, oh man, my neck is so stiff and I have a headache. Something's happening, right? That's what matters. Or I've been grinding my teeth for the last hour. Maybe I should stop trying to perfect this Facebook post and walk away for a second. You know, this is really what we're looking for, these very practical communication systems of our body. I'm just going to take a look at this for a moment and see which of these really wants to be looked at most closely. Okay. I'd like to look at the first two to begin with, because these two are very primary, very prominent in your design, Ashley. The pattern of paralysis or emotional paralysis, and the pattern of overwhelm, which is a matter of mental overwhelm. So each of these patterns and each of these body keys it's emerging in a particular dimension of your experience. In this case, both of these are emerging in very distinct dimensions. In paralysis, we're dealing with the emotional dimension, and in overwhelm, we're dealing with the mental dimension. And I'm curious to know, since I do have this opportunity to speak with you, do these dimensions and their patterns resonate for you?
Yeah, for sure. The paralysis, the knots feel like in my solar plexus area. I can feel them. And then overwhelm, for sure. Yeah. When there's chaos, I get overwhelmed and I want to try to organize the chaos.
Yeah, okay. That's very, very appropriate. Perfect. Okay. So what I like about these two in particular, even if we were to extrapolate them from your profile, is that I personally find these to be the most like direct expressions of tension for like the modern human being. This is kind of where we tend to get the most locked up, regardless of our profile. So these patterns, by the way, are at play. All 7 patterns are at play in everyone. It's just that these are going to be the most prominent in you. I'd like to scroll down for a moment to your body keys and look at what body keys serve these particular patterns. Okay, perfect. We're dealing with the body key of activity, and we're dealing with the body key of organization, which you have already intuited. But you also cheated a little because you've already looked at this.
I know my pattern.
Yeah, you do. And this is worth noting at this point, actually. I love that you said that. The body keys is not a revelatory experience. In most cases, this is not going to show you something new. The body keys is confirming and permissive more than it is revelatory. Really what this is it's about illuminating these patterns so that you have a more clear awareness of what's happening. And even one step beyond that, it's about providing a tool set that allows you to meet those moments in a way that is proactive as opposed to accidental, or worse, ignoring it altogether, right? So when you move through a profile, any listener, anyone who's utilizing the body keys, you may find that it's rather familiar, even obvious. And that's a good thing. It means that you're connected to your body's like built-in mechanisms. It also means that you're paying close enough to your attention to your experience to recognize those patterns as they play out. In this case, we're looking at the body key of activity and the body key of organization. Both of these are very active keys. This is about reorienting the attention, or the focus of your attention, away from whatever it is that's got you all wrapped up and toward some kind of activity. And in this case, we have two different types of activity. Now, every one of the 7 body keys is some form of activity. And this is worth noting as well. They're all some form of embodied activity. And yet here we are at the top with this word activity. Why did I choose to call it activity? I believe I may have mentioned this in a previous conversation. I don't know if it was recorded or not, so I'll say it again. I chose the word activity here because I wanted it to be direct and easy to understand. But ultimately what's happening here in the body key is absorption. It's not just about involving yourself in an activity. It's about becoming completely absorbed in an activity of some sort. It's, Simone, I believe at one point you used the word meditative. It's a meditative activity. And so for some people, that activity can be somewhat more complex. And Simone, do you mind if I use your example?
No, go for it.
Okay, so Simone shares this body key with you, Ashley, and for her, often she'll use painting as an activity that helps to bring her out of her mind, out of that kind of emotional and mental mess, and into something very physical, something very direct and focused. And this is a beautiful application of this body key. Painting is beautiful, and it works really well for Simone because it incorporates other of her body keys too, like her body key of nurture, which is very much connected to her senses of touch, which deals with texture and temperature, and smell, which you can imagine the smell of the paints is probably playing into self-soothing in those moments where she's using painting as a way out of tension and into relaxation. For myself, an activity tends to look a lot more boring and mundane, something like washing dishes or vacuuming or mowing the lawn. These are things that really work for me. They're very basic, and it's in part a result of that simplicity in the activity that I can just kind of like tune out of everything and involve myself totally in the activity itself. And so this is what's happening in activity. It's like a forced reset of your mental attention. You're not trying to figure out the knot of tension anymore. You're not trying to figure out where those emotions came from or what they're leading to. Instead, you're turning your attention away from it completely for a moment so that your body can regain a sense of composure so you can catch your breath, right?
Mm-hmm. I'd like to just jump in here too. I heard Rupert Sheldrake speak, and I think his latest book talks about this, about an activity that is, you're so in tuned with it, it becomes a meditative experience, and that actually can help us access higher vibrational levels of consciousness. But even gardeners, or just I've seen so many people in my own life have. My mother sews, and it's a meditative process. I try gardens. I paint. It might be cleaning the house. It might, whatever it is, just a variety of things where you're just so in tune with that thing that it becomes the meditation, like a walking meditation. Yeah.
Yes. Beautiful. And Ashley, you're nodding along. I mean, we're probably preaching to the choir here. I'll bet you as you're reviewing this, you already have a list of activities that serve you because you've probably been applying them for a long time.
Yeah. Like the recent one that I remember is me and my husband were having a conversation, and this was after I read your report of the body keys. We were having a conversation And I didn't want to go there because I was emotionally compromised. I was like, I don't want to talk about this anymore. And while he was talking, because he kept wanting to talk, I started to clean. And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. It's like I was just watching my body, like I was doing cleaning stuff and I don't even do. Like I went and I started to clean the chairs, like very meticulously, like taking all the grime from the kids' stuff off the chairs. He's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, I was like, "I don't even know. I think I'm just like immersing myself in this because I want to avoid what you're talking about."
That's perfect.
It was really good because it was also taking the tension that I had inside of me and putting it like, let me scrub this chair and let me get it out, you know? So
Absolutely, yes.
it helped me a lot. And then sometimes I'm doing graphic design, not even that I feel emotional tension, but when I am immersed in something artistic, it's like such a meditation for me, just like painting for Simone. I want to do that like all the time.
I love how courageous you are. It's one of the things I love most about you. Like, there, I can just see you scrubbing the chairs and admitting, because that's the truth of who you are. Yeah, I'm scrubbing the chairs. I want to listen to what you're saying.
My husband was like, I think I need to like talk about this more often so that you can like clean the house, like deep clean the house. I'm like, don't you manipulate me.
Yeah, that was the right thing to say. What I love about this example, Ashley, is that it demonstrates what I was leading to next, which is that these two keys are often, you can think of them as a cluster. It's almost like they're one key, because really what you're doing is in most cases, you'll be looking for some form of relieving organizational activity, and you can start to like synthesize them in that way. And when you're looking at the body key of activity, you're really looking at energetic release, which again was confirmed through your example, that you've got this bound up energy and it has to come out. Unfortunately, it tends to come out in a relational dialogue like you were describing, and it tends to come out forcefully and not so gracefully. And that can often, it's amazing how these things play into one another as feedback loops. You know, the pattern of emotional paralysis can so often feed into the pattern of relational discord, and then it becomes a real mess, because now it's like that sickness in you is starting to affect others. And so when we allow ourselves to kind of become more individual about this application, and in your case, you turned your attention away from the conversation and towards a personal activity that was relieving for you, man, it makes all the difference. It allows you to move that energy in a way that is non-destructive. Actually, even better than that, it allows you to move the energy in a way that is constructive. You know, it's not just that it isn't breaking something, you're actually cleaning. And that's what your husband realizes. Kind of funny, but he was right. So,
yeah, but I can also see how it could be you can project this need to organize on other people and say that something triggers you and you have an emotional reaction to it, and then you're like, why is nobody picking up their stuff? And then you start like nitpicking everyone else for not organizing, because I do that a lot. And I'm like, when things are organized, I have mental clarity. I have calmness inside of me. But if I like, as soon as I feel emotional tension, I look around and be like, what's out of order? What can I put in order? You know, and sometimes I'll get even more angry because I'm like picking up everybody's stuff, and I'll start to notice I'm picking up everybody's stuff. Mom life.
Yeah. I can only imagine. And my mom had 4 boys, so yeah, I'm sure she could probably relate with you even better than I could. What's interesting to me about your example is that it actually incorporates another of your patterns, which is the pattern of melancholy. And melancholy is a very individual pattern. It's very much something that's happening inside of you, and it is very closely connected to the emotional wave, this like emotional movement that sometimes intensifies to such a great degree that you feel locked up. Melancholy becomes the pattern of tension. It becomes a feeling of stuckness when we argue with it, when we blame ourselves or the world outside of us for that feeling. And so as you're feeling this kind of like inner discomfort, this emotional intensity, again, it doesn't so much matter whether we refer to it as emotional paralysis or melancholy. The fact is that when you begin to blame either yourself or others for what's happening, it becomes tighter and you become more stuck, and there's less and less of an outlet for you. Mm-hmm. So all of a sudden, you're just a complete disaster. So applying these keys can be really useful. And what we're finding here is kind of like a masterful application of the body keys, because in the end, these body keys aren't typically applied in isolation. Usually you're going to apply all of them at once, and you're going to find how your ways of applying them automatically incorporate all of these different things at once. And that's why I was referring to it being simple despite its complexity, because simple activities can in fact serve all of these different areas all at once. So let's scroll back to the body keys and look at another example of this. I want to look at the body key of privacy, the body key of privacy and soundscape, and the body key of soundscape. So these seem redundant. And on the level of your body keys, they actually are. This is another one that I like to think of as a cluster, or almost as a single body key. And Bella, you're going to be familiar with this because you also have this cluster, so to speak, happening as a really prominent aspect of your body keys profile. Privacy and soundscape in your case, in both of your cases, can be applied simultaneously. And I would encourage you in just about every case to do so. Anytime that you can break away to a personal space, you can get some alone time, some elbow room in your life, it will really serve you to find a soundscape that soothes you in that same moment. Ultimately, what you're looking for, what your inner being is looking for in that moment is not only to be away from others, but it's looking for spaciousness. And privacy is aiming for spaciousness. Soundscape is too. And soundscape achieves that feeling of spaciousness through inner silence. Inner silence. What's interesting about inner silence is that it can be accessed through sound. It seems kind of counterintuitive on the surface, but we've all experienced this. And people, again, who are built like us, I think have a special access to this feeling, where whether it's complete silence, like earplugs in, and there's that soft hiss of complete silence that is just so soothing, like a cloud, right? Or your favorite song and the symphonic expansion of your favorite song. It's like something inside of you opens up, right? There is this opening and this softening that occurs as a result of your sound environment. And so privacy and soundscape can often be applied together. The reason that I make a distinction here, and I actually include them as 3 separate keys, is because they serve 3 separate patterns, and the patterns themselves are quite distinct. So although the key can be thought of as a single key, privacy and soundscape, the patterns that are unlocked, the patterns that are healed as a result of this simple application are actually really diverse, really dimensioned, and really powerful. It's like this single key has a really empowering impact when applied. Okay, and then of course keep in mind that there are 3 distinct gifts that emerge on the other side of this. Anytime I see someone who's built like you, Ashley, or like you, Bella, or even like myself in this way, I get really excited, because here's a single point of focus that opens up like a lotus multiple facets of giftedness while simultaneously healing multiple patterns of tension. It's really exciting. It's like it's a key. It's a really strong key. Does that make sense?
Yeah, Tim, talk to us about soundscape, because I don't have this particular one. And when I'm reading in the 3 that are outlined, I see soundscape in order to restore a sense, soundscape. So what, give us an example of a soundscape.
Perfect. Let's talk about soundscape for a moment. Soundscape is one of the only body keys that exists on a scale or a gradient. Along this scale, you have loud sounds, quiet sounds, you have nature sounds, city sounds, you have music, and as I mentioned earlier, you have silence. Complete silence actually exists on this same gradient. And so soundscape isn't about any old sounds. Soundscape is about good feeling sounds. And the senses that it maps to are your sense of hearing and your sense of feeling. So this is important to note, that it's not just about a sound, it's about a sound that feels good for you in the moment. So you'll find later in your profile that I refer to this as a self-defined soundscape. It's about literally cultivating an acoustic setting or an acoustic atmosphere that feels right for you in that moment. And sometimes that sound setting is going to need to be soft. Maybe it's like a soft meditative kind of humming music. Maybe sometimes it needs to be upbeat and you've just got to move. And Ashley, in your case, I see this being likely in a lot of cases. You need that activity. You're entering, again, we're synthesizing all of this. You're going to enter into some kind of relieving organizational activity. Maybe you want some type of music that kind of like ignites that spirit of movement in you. And so off you go to the races with that. Sometimes that is the complete opposite of what you will need. So feeling into what it is that you need at any given time is really important when we're dealing with this body key of soundscape. And remembering too that silence counts. Sometimes you don't want sound, you want silence. And in most cases, especially as a mother in a house with responsibilities and other humans, you're going to need to really escape to a place that allows that for you. And there
The
again,
shower. I go to the shower.
there you go. Oh, good. So you can sing in the shower.
I usually shower and then listen to some kind of meditation music or some kind of like Sanskrit mantra.
Boom. That's perfect. And shower is interesting. Shower incorporates your element, which we're coming to. See, this is so much fun. This is what I miss by doing audio readings because I don't get the feedback. This is really fun. I want to check in with Bella because obviously I've done a lot of talking. I just want to see if there's anything here that's come up for you that you'd like to address.
I know the soundscape. I mean, I've been doing it naturally, and I love what you are saying. These are not new things to us. So first, when you get the profile, you could be like, "Oh, but I know this about me." But it's actually deeper. There is a deeper layer that takes maybe a while to tap into, and then you realize the intelligence of your body. And I know that I've been doing this for I'm doing it, and it's something. It doesn't matter if I'm in Thailand, if I'm in Sweden, if I have like the music, I have my playlists, I have those things that I can always go to, and I create my bubbles. And I think that's the privacy in the soundscape. I create my bubbles wherever I go, and as long as I can create my bubble, it doesn't really matter. I'm home everywhere because my body's relaxed. So
Yeah.
I really feel like the truth of what you're saying, and also the intelligence that the body already knew it. But now that I can highlight it, I can also, maybe sometimes when I forget, I know that, okay, I have this key that I can bring in. So it's not only intuitively, it's also consciously that I can bring in that key.
See, I knew I was supposed to let you say something. Yes, absolutely. Yes. That's the major distinction that I've found in my own application of this is that something that was happening subconsciously some of the time is now something that I can proactively engage, something that I can proactively utilize. And so it's really what it is. It's about allowing our conscious capacity to cooperate with our body intelligence. And that's what you've just described. It's amazing for me to notice that my experience is very similar to yours in that about a year prior to the body keys kind of introducing themselves to me through my experience, I created a whole series of what I referred to as feeling playlists, and each playlist helped me to feel a certain way. So I have a cozy playlist, a soft playlist, a chill playlist, a productive playlist. All of these playlists, by the way, are public and available on my website for anyone who would love to hear them, use them. But the point is exactly what you described, Bella. We know this stuff. Our bodies know this. Our job is to come into alignment with the body's knowing rather than arguing with it, rather than ignoring it. We get to cooperate, and we get to use both of these incredibly capable forms of intelligence which are inherent to every human being, the mind and the body. We get to use them in cooperation as opposed to constantly setting them at odds, as we have kind of been taught to do. Generally speaking, the mind is alienated from the body. The body keys is about reconnecting that natural cooperation, right?
I love how Ashley went right to this example of taking a shower, because as I look at her list, it almost hits all of them. You know, taking a shower is nurturing.
Yes.
Taking a shower has sound and pattern. You know, with the water. It's also a cleaning activity. It's know, an organize. You know, it's cleaning, and it's also an activity. You know, so it's like in the shower, she hits them all.
Yes.
And I love that she went right to that example for us. Beautiful.
It's incredible, actually. And I'm glad you made a point of it, because I hadn't even seen it that way, but you're 100% correct. Something as simple as taking a shower actually does all of that. I mean, as you spoke, I imagined myself in the shower, and not only the feeling of the water on my skin, but the sound of the water. I mean, this is like a notoriously soothing sound. And that's what the body keys are about, soothing moments of tension. For the longest time, before the body keys was the name of what was happening here, I was looking for the name. And I kept looking at the word catharsis, because this is all about like your body's natural mechanisms of catharsis. And a shower is perfect in that regard. It actually leads me to the next body key that I'd love to look at, which is nurture, because for you, actually, there's something really special happening here too. I mentioned previously that all of the body keys map to a specific sensory engagement with the world. We're dealing with the senses in each of these. And so we learned about how privacy and soundscape are all about feeling and hearing. Organization is all about sight. It's about the aesthetic quality of your experience, which of course, as a designer, is really exciting to see that that's something that's not only pivotal to your everyday experience, but even pivotal to your creative expression. Right? In nurture, we're dealing with the senses of touch and smell. Touch and smell. So again, here we are in the shower, and you can imagine the smell of the soap or the shampoo or the body wash, and you can imagine the feeling of the water on your skin. Touch is always going to be a function of texture and temperature. You know, these ways that we engage with the world through our skin. Touch is also going to correlate to sound, because we actually engage with that bubble. Bella, I love that, by the way, that bubble of our soundscape through the skin. You know, that those sound waves are interacting with the surface of our skin. So whether or not we have the sensitivity to notice it, it's happening, right? But Ashley, for you, smell is huge. Now, forgive me if I'm preaching to the choir here, but I'm really excited to notice that smell is like all over your body graph. Smell is extremely primary to you. Did you know this?
I've seen it on my human design, my expanded human design chart.
Mm-hmm.
But it's actually something that I like struggle with the most. It's weird. I have sinus stuff, and like I can usually only breathe out of one nostril, and it's so weird. My son, though, he will tell you if he wants to eat a food, but he's like, nope, that smells weird, I'm not eating it. But I think my pores kind of smell. Like I could tell if like I don't want somebody around me because of their pheromones. I think it's not necessarily as smell as much as it maybe is like, I don't know. There's just something deeper to that I'm trying to uncover. I don't know.
You're 100% correct. In fact, your sense of smell is connected to your nose, but it is also connected to your skin. And so your whole body smells. And this is to a certain
My whole body smells?
Your whole body smells. Your whole body is one big nose. Is that any more flattering? It's that your whole body is attuned to this particular frequency of your environment, right? And so this is exciting for me to notice. It's also worth stating, I think, potentially, that what you just described is fairly common for someone built like you. For someone who's superpower sensor, and this is true for you, your superpower sensor is the sense of smell. For someone who has this activated so prominently in the like the very depths of their human design, the most likely area of indication, or like the most likely place where issues are going to crop up, are on your nose. And so you and I share this, by the way. Both of us have the superpower sensor of smell. So this connects to dietary regimen, your ideal dietary regimen. I can tell you that when I eat according to my appropriate dietary regimen in alignment with my own personal digestive process, everything clears up in my nasal passageways, my sense of smell becomes heightened, and I'm good to go. When I decide not to do this and I eat junk food that is not in alignment with what I know my ideal regimen to be, the craziest things happen. And it can be a runny nose or a stuffy nose. It can also be, this is not so sexy, but it can be like, I'll get like pimples on my nose, you know, or like a rash. It's like, it's very, very pointed. And this is on purpose. Again, the body knows what it's doing, and it knows which aspects of itself are the most useful for you, and it's going to communicate through those areas. And so the fact that you have this kind of going on in your sinuses and in your nose is probably an indication that there's opportunity for you here. That would be my guess. And it's probably connected to your digestive system, your process with, regard to food. It's a gut sense. I could be dead wrong, but that's what I'm noticing.
I'm curious about investigating. It's an opportunity. What were you saying, Simone, on the call today? You said it was that, I forget what you said. When we were like talking about Taekwondo or like jujitsu or whatever, and you're like, it's something with
a project. In
project.
Jiu-Jitsu, they talk about this as like, this is your project. It's an ongoing project. And I love that because it's just a kind way of talking about things to work on.
I've never really gone into PHS or any of the dietary stuff because I think my PHS is, I don't know, mine is a little bit more lax than a lot of people. So do I feel like this? Do I not feel like this? But I'm curious to see how that might impact, because I have made teas before that had like nettle leaf and rose hips and some other stuff. And when I was drinking it, when I drank a lot of it, like I was breathing out of both nostrils. I was like, oh my God, I've never felt this before. This is weird.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Then this will be a good direction for us to move in. And it will be a direction that we move in. Maybe even if there's time in this series, maybe we can look at some of this for all of us.
Cool.
We're coming up on an hour, so what I would love to do, if it's okay, is I'd love to scroll down to your final section, which is entitled Expression. Now, we spent quite a bit of time discussing the different elemental expressions on our second introductory video, which we'll provide a link for. But in this case, actually, I want to look at yours. I want to look at the element of earth. And so to begin with, I want to provide just a moment of context. What does expression mean? Why do I call it expression? The elemental expression it's basically like a filter that everything else that's happening in your profile feeds through. So the element of earth is going to flavor the way that your body keys express themselves and the way that your gifts express themselves too. And what we're seeing here is that you're someone who's going to demonstrate groundedness in the way that you express your body keys and your gifts. It also shows us that you're someone who's going to be really, really focused on the sensory quality of that engagement. So it says sensory enjoyment. You're someone who's built to really get into all of these different senses. And what's exciting for me to notice about this is that earth is about sensory enjoyment. And here you have 6 out of 7 body keys, each connected to a different sense. You're basically utilizing every last one of your senses. Bella, you're smiling because you probably already connected those dots. It's really exciting to notice this. It also means that you're someone who's going to benefit from finding yourself as often as possible in your food. This is about your connection to the earth, the structure of your body. It's about your skeleton, your muscles. Okay, so this is more than any other element about being a human, about being embodied in a physical form. The likelihood is fairly high that as a result of this, you are more disconnected from that very essence of your experience than most. Because this is what happens for us in life. In human design, there's a fascinating phenomenon known as transference, where we tend to find ourselves 180 degrees apart from what's appropriate. And this tends to be the case when we're looking at on this level of the elemental expression too. We tend to be most disconnected from what is most appropriate and most helpful. And that's why I make a point of including that in the profile, because everyone needs to know what their element is. And as you explore what this might mean for you more and more in your own way, you're going to find that it becomes more and more expanded in your experience. You're going to find a lot of different ways that earth becomes meaningful for you, that sensory enjoyment leads you forward into a closer contact with your life. It's a really exciting thing to notice.
I wanted to add something about the elemental expressions, because it's something that is new, but it's also not completely new for people that are into human design and gene keys. Yeah. So when we speak about the elemental expressions, it goes back to, we can say that it goes back to as well, the purpose sphere, or the personality, the design earth sphere. And we look at the lines. So line 1 would be that earth expression. And then each line in the sphere of purpose or in the design, earth and sun are connected to this. So it's not like it's not a completely new, like this is why I love this, because it shows how actually from where, some of the things that you are using your system actually comes from human design and gene keys, and how it already can go in. And if they watch the gift video, if you know your line, or if you pull up your chart and know the line of your person or your design sun and earth, you can actually go into, look at that video and be, okay, this is my elemental expression. This is how I tune into this. So that's something, that's a little nugget that I would love everybody who's on the call to actually do, because for me and Ashley, that exploration that we've done in our membership group the last 2 months at least has been like so eye-opening. And for me and Simone as well, we started to like really actually even channel some of the wisdom from the lines of the body. And both me and Simone, we are 6 lines, and you're naming that elemental expression spirit, and that resonated for me so much, so that that has been an ongoing inquiry and discovery for me the last 2 months.
Beautiful. And it's worth noting that too. I'm glad you made a point of saying so. And to be clear, all of the body keys is extrapolated from human design and the gene keys. So it's new and it's not new in that regard. The patterns and the body keys and the gifts, they're all coming out of the circuitry of human design. They're all about how you're wired. It becomes interesting when you're a reflector in your human design type. In fact, I created a profile for my first reflector the other day, and it was a completely different exercise, and this area, it comes directly out of the gene keys. So I always want to make a point, and I'm glad that you helped me to remember to do this in this conversation, Bella. It's important to me that these systems get their due, because they're really important systems. The value and what I believe to be the importance of the body keys is a matter of application. So what we tend to explore intellectually as ideas in some of these other systems, the body keys is all about, well, here's how you can make use of that. I don't need to confuse the issue by showing where all that comes from necessarily, because for me, it's about that simple question of, how do I use this? And in this case, you use Earth by getting inside of the idea, by recognizing it as this, again, this kind of like flavor or filter that everything else that we've learned about in your profile moves through. Again, coming back to this example of the shower, it's all about the feeling of the shower. You're dealing with the temperature and the water on your skin. It's a very grounded activity. Yeah. Simone, I love seeing you smile at that, because you picked up on it initially, and you were 100% right. It incorporates literally every aspect of your body keys profile, and it is so simple. And so this is something that I like to refer to as illuminating the ordinary. All of a sudden, these simple, even mundane and otherwise apparently meaningless movements of your everyday experience become lit up with meaning, lit up with value, and they directly serve your process. They help you to remember who you are. They help you to relax. And ultimately, they allow these beautiful, and in your case, what a collection of gifts to emerge as a natural expression of who you are. And now something that you've done, something simple that you've done for yourself, begins to affect the world outside of you. In your case, your family and everyone that you work with through Unlock Your Design. I mean, everyone needs, for this version, this beautiful dimensioned version of Ashley to show up. And if something as simple as taking a shower can reconnect you to the ground of who you are in a matter of 10 to 15 minutes, and you get your breath back, and you regain connection to your sovereignty, and you step forward into life from that position, and it changes everything, well, that makes you a really lucky human, and it makes everyone who interacts with you lucky too, right?
It's one of the things that I most love about the body keys is that it's not revelatory in the fact of, oh, Ashley likes to take a shower, Bella likes her playlist, Simone likes to paint or read a book. But it's the awareness that, oh, I'm being compelled to take a shower right now. I'm being compelled to clean right now. Oh, I'm being compelled to listen to my playlist and then to have that awareness, oh, when I'm being driven to this thing, oh, I'm dealing with emotional tension, mental tension. Oh, well, what am I emotionally tense about? What am I mentally tense about? And to have the awareness that, it just allows us to, if let's go back to Ashley's example with the cleaning the chair. She's so fearless. She can be cleaning the chair and say to her husband, I'm cleaning this chair because I'm avoiding talking to you. But let's say you don't have that level of awareness yet. The Body Keys helps you get there, that, oh, I'm cleaning because I'm organizing because I have mental tension. And this is my body's way of relieving that tension. What am I mentally tense about? How does that feel in my body? And for me, so it's not revelatory in that, it identifies what you do. It's revelatory in showing us how what we're doing is unveiling the tension that we are having. So like the horse that shakes in the field, or the jackrabbit that has just been chased and shakes. What are they shaking off? What are we shaking off when we're doing these things? And that to me is the pragmatic genius, because having the awareness of what I'm shaking off has helped me so much and given me so much permission. One of mine is relational threat. And the way I shake it off is through reading. So when I am compelled to read, I can ask the question, what relational threat am I facing? And, we're in the time of COVID, and we were in quarantine, and I was reading quite a lot, and yet inside my home was really peaceful. I was like, okay, I'm experiencing some kind of relational threat, but in my home, I'm really peaceful. In my body, I'm really peaceful. It helps me to go, oh, well, what's outside of my home? That's what I'm processing, all of the stresses, so it is so empowering, because how many of us have, had these habits, if you will, or these tendencies to these certain things, and then felt bad about it. Oh, I'm taking another shower. I shouldn't be taking my third shower of the day. Or, oh, I'm organizing my desk yet again. Why am I doing this? It's such a waste of time. So how many activities have we participated in and put ourselves down for it, as opposed to understanding, oh, I'm shaking off mental tension, emotional tension. It's my body's natural response to get me back into balance. And I think that is just such a gift to mankind. So for that, I am incredibly grateful to you.
Mm-hmm.
Simone, thank you so much. For me, that's very exciting to hear. And that's the main step, is the way that you took this information and you applied it, and you found out what it meant for you. That's that step, that's where all the value is, right?
It becomes a discovery tool.
Yes.
It allows me to dig into some other thing. I'm doing it. Well, why am I doing it? It's like a tool. It's a lens that I can look within, to what's going on in my world in a different way, in a non-judgmental way, in a way that's just so, open, because we all want to be balanced, right?
Yes. Well, and I know we're a little past the mark here, so I hope it's okay if I say one thing more.
Yeah.
Something that's really exciting for me about this material, and something that's been really pivotal for me, is the way that it integrates so seamlessly into our everyday experience. This isn't about going out and buying something so that you can ... It's not about setting aside a certain amount of time to meditate. It's about meeting real life in a real way, given whatever you might have available to you at the time. This is not about escaping our experience for enough time to get settled. It's about meeting life as it happens. And so that's really, really important to me. If this was about going to buy a certain tool that you would apply or need to remember to bring with you, or any of this sort of thing, it would never be sustainable. these things get forgotten. But the reality is when we're dealing with the body itself as the primary tool of awareness, then it's always available and 100% free. You know, it's the ultimate playground. It's always with us. And so learning about the body keys just gives us more ground for exploration. Again, it's a door opening up into a new territory. And the territory is your very normal, beautiful, magical everyday life, right?
Yeah.
So I could preach on that one for a while.
Well, we've gone over a little bit, so I think we're going to pull together. If you have enjoyed this first episode of Living the Body, sponsored by the 64 Doors and Unlock Your Design, we hope you'll join us next Friday as we go into our next episode. We have many things planned for you, many body keys things and other topics to really go into living the body. And some of our topics or digging into the ideal dietary regimens, looking at the relationship between tension and relaxing the body. Anybody else want to throw out anything else that we're going to explore in future episodes?
Well, that was perfect. We have a lot to explore. I think it would make sense for us to look at dietary regimen, as you mentioned. I would love to talk a little bit more between the four of us on this topic of body listening, really allowing ourselves to come into closer contact with the body, because at the end of the day, living the body is all about what it means to engage with life through the body as a human, to really come down into the form and texture of our experience in that way. We have a lot of different directions that we can move in, and over the next few weeks, every Friday we'll meet at 7 o'clock to explore some new facet of this topic of embodiment.
So if you've enjoyed us, and if you want to learn more about the body keys, you can reach Timothy at timothybrainerd.com. If you love the content that the 64 Doors and Unlock Your Design membership group are bringing, you can find Ashley and Bella at 64doors.com, on Facebook, all over the place. They are goddesses extraordinaire. And you can find me at SimoneGers.com. Thank you so much. Until next time, take care.
Thank you, everyone.